Hello, everybody, and welcome to another community fortress. This is the Fortress of Sanctumshoots, sent in by Hardened. So this is their first fortress, which they started back in December, and it kind of stands out for a couple of reasons. At the end of the video, I will be showing a couple of screenshots of Stone Sense within DFHack if you would like to have a peek at the fortress in kind of an isometric view, and you'll see why in a moment. Once again, this is their first fortress that they started back in December, and what really stood out to me about this fortress is the population is almost 400, which they actually said that they got over at some point. Now, the kind of thing about population in Dwarf Fortress is most forts are generally around 200 because that is the default cap. Clearly, they've lifted the default cap here and increased it to just unknowingly higher numbers. Now, the kind of exciting thing about this is that we get to see a very, very large fortress, but I also expect it to run very slowly. So this is a bit of a stress test for me, so I'm really curious to see how this fortress actually runs. If you would like to send in a fortress for me to have a look at on this series, you can jump into my Discord. There is a link down in the description of the video. In that Discord, there's a room called DF Save Sharing, where people talk about and share saves for Dwarf Fortress. If you would like me to have a look at it in this series, just simply follow what other people are doing in the past and just make sure that you leave a little bit of a kind of a just heads up that I am allowed to use it in a video. I wouldn't want to go using somebody's save without their permission. This is an interesting color ocean over here. All right, so we're going to dive down into the fortress. Now, it's this sprawling, massive fortress with overhang walls around the edges, and it's just this big surface fort. So I'm largely just going to kind of go through this one blank. Now, keep in mind, this is somebody's first ever fortress, so I'm very keen to go through it. We've actually got the Star and the Star underneath these two moods because it's above 100. If it goes above 100, the game can't actually calculate the numbers. So if I look at this, just look at this list of dwarves. Everybody is ecstatic. We got so many custom jobs and tasks and everything. We are the capital. We aren't the mountain home, which is worth noting. Over here, if we hit the king, we can see that we do have the queen. We have a good god, not large number of nobles. We got duchies, a baron, a mayor, a champion, many different captains of the guard, many different squads all set up with different types of people in them. I'm just impressed that this fortress hasn't encountered some sort of crash or something that's broken it, because it's rare for them to make it this far. We have barracks up at the top here. Down beneath it, we have space for the barracks. We have another barracks and a dining hall. And then down at the bottom is the base of the barracks. We have this kind of very large animal training zone with water in the middle. The water is coming from this reservoir, which is also being used to pump water, I think. Yes, these wheels are in fact turning. So let's actually just see what frame rate this is going to run at. I'm assuming sub 10 for me. About 10? Okay. That's actually better than I was expecting. So there isn't really much flow or space or direction for this water to go, as it is kind of just getting pumped here, which would be why these are not generating any power. I'm not entirely sure the design that this was intended to take initially. It is connected to this river, so theoretically it could generate power, but it's not going to generate a ton of power. I'm really perplexed as to where the water is actually flowing to. It does seem like some of the water is just bubbling up and over here and maybe back in. I'm not entirely sure with that bit. But we do have a library over here, which looks quite lovely. That goes up, 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 and 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 up, all the way to the top here. So if we look at that once again, it just kind of keeps going. The entire thing appears to be made out of copper, which is beautiful. And this is definitely going to need to be looked at in Stone Sense at the end of the video. Over here on the left, we have a barracks, and in the center here, we have a whole bunch of dining halls and very beautiful bedrooms. I love this organic layout. It just looks gorgeous to me. We have a little office in the middle there, as well as battlements, and then over here we have bedrooms, as well as dining hall down in the base. I love these little huts and houses kind of outside for the farmers and stuff. There's a lot of what feels like role play going on here in kind of the best way. We have these, again, another barracks over here in this other tower. The barracks are all in towers. We've got little huts for the farmers, and then just underground, there's large farming spaces down here. With tons of different crops. Seems to be a lot of plump helmets, but in my mind, it's a lot of different crops. And then down here, all of this water is spilling through and creating a lot of mist, which is coming from this upper area. So the water's being pumped from down here very quickly, which is pumped from down here very quickly, which then I'm assuming is from down there. So yeah, water's pumped from down from all the way down here, and then up through, and it's just there's so much going on. It's actually hard for me to kind of distinguish everything and all the bits and all the pieces. And then down here we have this kind of setup of just we have a hospital which is currently entirely disabled, as well as another library. Or rather, sorry, not another library, another guild hall, which is a doctor's guild. I'm assuming the bookshelves are just for show. And then we have kind of a clothing industry, as well as a few other workshops around. And like I said, the disabled hospital down there. And then as we move down, we start to see bedrooms. So something that I do really want to highlight about this fortress is it's less insane than other fortresses I've seen on this series. But like... the amount of stuff they actually have is actually pretty reasonable for the number of dwarves here. That amount of food there doesn't need to be so large, and I would personally cut the number of drinks in half. But generally, like, for the size of this fortress, it's actually quite reasonable for the amount of items being produced, from what I can tell. Although I will admit, I'm scared to click on the stock screen. If we go down a layer, there's these massive stockpiles, and this is where we get to the overproduction stuff a little bit. Having stuff in stockpiles does remove them from physics, but if you were to, say, queue up a job with bars and blocks and having all these dwarves path down to this one giant stockpile is definitely going to impact your frame rate quite a bit. But this fortress is just designed to be huge and slow, so that's kind of fine. Down here we have an archery range. Over here we have another barracks. We have 2 more barracks down here, as well as what appears to just be like a dormitory with a really large tavern in the middle with all visitors welcome. And I gotta say, this whole minecart setup thing is real cool looking, just for distributing items. And then if we move down a layer, we get to the massive sprawl of bedrooms and other various smaller spaces off in the corners. And once again, I don't really have any feedback for this. This is just super cool, and I'm impressed that it runs. As we move down a little ways, there's just kind of areas that have obviously been dug up for resources. Down here we have what appears to just be like a whole lot of temples, and then tombs in the middle, and tombs and tombs and tombs and tombs and tombs. I'd also be curious to know how many years this fortress ran for, because it's the year 159, so I'm hesitating to guess that they started at the year 100, which would mean that this fortress is probably about 160 years old, which would mean that, like, a year's time at 10 FPS on my computer or 20 FPS on their computers, they were saying, is probably, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe like 2 hours of gameplay. I'd be really curious to know what the total time of gameplay is on this fortress. And then down here is just another massive stockpile, which is just going to happen in a fortress of this size. And then as we go down, we're kind of following the pump stack there. You can see the stairs over here. Over here is just more strip mining, and we start to reach the cavern layers. There's over here is just a massive pile of steel gear, as well as the very much opened up caverns. And then there's this kind of open hole here, which is kind of asking for trouble. If the right Forgotten Beast showed up, you'd be in for a bad time. Down here, there's a bunch of cages, as well as another barracks, I'm assuming. Yep, as down for the entrance to the caverns. I just want to say shout-outs to the Cavern Tavern over at a friend of mine's channel, Hoodie Hair. Definitely go check out their work as well. I just think about that whenever I see barracks down in the taverns now. Very interesting prison setup. It's very torturous, I gotta say. It's like they just kind of sit on these holes. Like, wow, it's kind of dark, actually. Imagine being the guy in the middle, though. Ugh, all the feces. Anyway, over here we have another interesting space. Whoops. Wow, okay, I just hit the wrong button. Imagine being the guy that has to stay in here for whatever reason. This is a pit pond. I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe they were trying to fill it up. If you want to fill this up with water, make the top area, not the actual zone down in the base itself, the pit pond, and then they can fill it. And then as we go down, we can follow these stairs. We see more areas that have been dug out. And then down here, we get to kind of an area that is very unfinished. I'm curious to know what's going to happen down here. As we continue to move down, we actually get to see one of my favorite cavern types. Oh, I love these. So the lower caverns sometimes if they have no water, the only thing that can actually grow is bloodthorn, because bloodthorn requires no water. So if there's no water source in a cavern lair and only mud, and no water whatsoever, you'll actually get these bloodthorn zones, and I love them. They're just like, especially in ASCII, they just look absolutely rad. Like, look at this. It's just like this hellish red everywhere, and just like with purple ground. It's one of my favorite like aesthetic things that can happen into our fortress. It's like you get into a lower layer and then everything is just bloodthorn. It's like, well, that's ominous. Move down a little bit more, with my favorite stairs, and then we get down into the cavern layers with more strip mining, as we can see, and then just kind of this interesting pattern over here, which seems like it's going to have lava pumped into it eventually, and then we can go down a little bit more, and this might get spoilery, so maybe close your eyes until I say to open them. We have like a space for artifacts down here, like a vault, and then what's it called? Magma forges. And we can go down a little further. Nope, never mind. No spoilers. You're all good. And then that's about as deep as the fortress goes. So this is the fortress of Sanctumshoots, a capital, a dwarven capital that is practically unparalleled in size. This is really, really cool. Thank you very much for sending this fortress in, Hardened, and if you stick around until the end of the video, you will see a couple of screenshots of it in Stone Sense. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.